You're running the Tomb of Annihilation, and your party just arrived in Port Nyanzaru. But now you've got an entire city to run, so you might think there's a lot to prepare. But there's some good news. We can make this a lot easier and lighter on the prep. Look, I've run Tomb of Annihilation several times, and I'm going to show you exactly what I actually prepare to make the port feel alive without spending hours prepping places your players may never even visit. We'll hit the locations worth knowing, the dinosaur races, gladiator fights, and some really fun encounters you can drop in anywhere in this port city. All right, stay tuned. I'm Chris. This is The Art of Character, a Dungeons & Dragons podcast where we explore all things D&D. Let's roll. All right, welcome back to the channel. I'm really glad that you're here. All right, so the party's already met their patron, and now they're in the port. What do you do? Now what? So there's a lot here, but you don't need to prepare all of it, and it's not even close. All right, you also have a little magic trick up your sleeve. Give them a guide to the city. I mentioned this in my previous video. So the guide can suggest places to go, activities to check out, where they might find guides for the jungle expedition, so they can have a city guide and a jungle guide. Your players still decide what they want to do, the order they want to do it in, but they're choosing from a few good options. Instead of wandering all over the city while you're constantly trying to come up with another NPC name, another shop, another market, or a section of the city you need to role play because they're going somewhere they don't really even need to go. So this is going to give you some control over what you need to prepare while still letting the port feel really open. They're going to have plenty of choices. There's a lot to do already. But think about it. When you go visit a friend in a city that you've never been to and you know little about, do they just keep asking, what do you want to do? With no context? Of course they don't. They're going to offer up an itinerary, give you a few good choices. Here are some great places to go. Here are some great places to eat. Here are some choices. What do you want to do? So let's do something like that for the party. We'll give them a bit of an itinerary and a guided tour, if you will, right? We'll start by taking a look at the map and figuring out what looks good on the Port Nyanzaru menu. All right, let's get into it. Here we are on D&D Beyond. Here's Port Nyanzaru. And so here are the things to think about when you think about describing the port. So it's a jungle city. It's lush. There are flowers. There are smells. There are vines. There are dinosaurs used as beasts of burden. Birds, lizards, monkeys, animals all going about. Generally, it's a bit chaotic, but a happy place overall. Very multicultural. It's vibrant. There's a lot of commerce. There are stalls, markets. There's a port here. It's lively with adventure. A lot of parties are getting ready to head out into the jungle. There's also kind of rich and poor and clergy here, so there's kind of that dynamic. Overall, it's considered a wealthy city, a commerce city. There are massive stone walls, walls within walls, and there are 4 steep hills. It talks about those here. There's Temple Hill and Throne Hill and Mount Sabasa, and this one right here, Yukulwazi. Try to pronounce that one 3 times quickly. Yukulwazi Hill. We'll talk about those here in just a little bit. The wealthier districts generally are walled off inside the walled city itself, and there are 3 major districts outside of the walls. Old City, Maller's Throat, and Tariki Anchorage. And about half the population lives outside of the walls. Generally, those are the poorer parts of the population. The outer districts are exposed to dinosaurs and the undead and zombies and carnivores, all those beasts that are out there in the jungle. There are warning horns that sound when zombies or when there's danger nearby, and the residents try to scramble and get inside the gates before the gates close. So all of this is part of the environment, and talks about a lot of that stuff here. There's several different descriptions it uses. It gives you plenty of kind of content to kind of help you describe what's going on. Talks about some side quests here. I don't use these. These are kind of sends you out into the jungle, I guess, kind of as you're in the city, but I don't think that's necessary. So I'm going to skip over all of that. Here are the locations in the city. We're going to take a look at a map here in just a minute, and I'll kind of walk you through each of the places and show you what's going on. Here is the map, but I want to show you something else first. It kind of goes through the different sections I talked about, and if you look over here, you can see them also. We've got the Old City, Merchants Ward, the Harbor Ward, the Market Ward, Maller's Throat, and Tariki Anchorage. Okay, here we are on the map, and I'm going to go ahead and zoom in and show you different parts. I showed you a little bit of this in the previous video. Here's the Old City. Here's Maller's Throat over here, and here's Tariki Anchorage. Here's the wall, and here's the main part of the city. There are gates here, here, here. There's also the port over here. There's a chain right here that kind of closes off the port. So it is a secure city. And there are hills. There's one here, the 4 hills, 1, 2, 3, and 4. We'll go over all of those. And here's some additional walled sections. These are where the rich people live over here. And generally the kind of higher class areas are within these walls, inside the walls. And the poor people are over here outside, exposed to the jungle. So here we are at the old city. This is outside, and this is kind of where a lot of the poor people live. These here are 2 ziggurats, and they're basically ramshackle places, kind of shanties where people live, and a bunch of kind of small stalls and markets. So this is also the refuse pit over here. There's an otyug over here that's kind of underneath the pit, or several of them, some ghouls that might prowl over here. So any player that falls in over there, it's gonna be trouble. This right here, number 2, this is called Executioner's Run. So they have like velociraptors and other things down there in the pit. And if you are convicted of a crime, they toss you into a pit. Or I guess if you're convicted of a crime, they're going to toss you into the pit. And if you can make it from one end to the other without getting killed, then you are considered free and clear. Otherwise, you're going to get eaten or attacked or whatever's going to go on down in there. And the poor people of the city come out here and bet on those things down in Executioner's Run. There's a gate right here. And then this over here is the Merchant's Ward. This is kind of the upper walled-in city section. And this, and this, and this is kind of the upper kind of walled or gated community, if you will. So the number 5s right here, these are all the merchant princes' villas. And the merchant princes essentially run this city. So they're kind of the city within the city. Then we come over here to the temples. We've got Golden Throne right here. This is where kind of the center of government is. It's a loose association of the merchant princes, and they generally run what happens in Port Nyanzaru. Again, up here on this hill, and this is called Throne Hill. Then we've got Grand Souk over here. This is the oldest market in the city, and it basically takes all of the native crafts from all the peoples out in the jungle. There are the Batiri goblins. You can get all kinds of colorful things, masks, creatures. You can buy monkeys and lizards and all that kind of thing, or just crafts from the various kind of assortment of people and cultures out there in the jungle. A lot of local things here. You can buy dinosaur meat or other kind of exotic things to eat here. This right here, number 7, this is Temple Hill, this area right here, and this is the Temple of Savras. So this is a temple of divination. The idea here is players can come here and get some kind of divination on the source of the soulmonger, or what's going on with the death curse. You, the DM, kind of control the information that they get, but this is a place they can come and get some information. This over here is the Temple of Gond. This is kind of for the local artisans and blacksmiths and things like that. So Gond is the god of blacksmiths, inventors, and engineering. This is the Temple of Sune over here. So she's this goddess of beauty, and basically players can come over here, and what they can get are kind of beauty treatments or consultations on beauty. It's kind of like a spa, that kind of a place. See these bridges right here? These connect or kind of keep all of these richer areas up here in this kind of walled off gated community away and high up away from all of the rabble down here on the streets. So that's definitely going on. There's also this over here, the jewel market, obviously up here in the more secure area of the city. This is the harbor ward over here. You've got the royal docks. These are for the merchant princes and their visitors and their vessels. This is a statue right here for an old Cholton god. It's called the statue of Nanabuso. Kind of symbolizes their independence and their history. This is the harbor master's office over here. This is a great location for a bulletin board for people you can hire here in the city. So guides or kind of anybody else who might join them on their adventure. Great place for a bulletin board. There's the lighthouse over here for the port. And then this is Port Nyanzaru. And this kind of controls this chain, which controls what comes in and out of the port. This is the warehouse district over here, number 16. And these are kind of these water-filled canals that you can kind of bring boats in here and bring your goods into all of these warehouses. This is also a great location for a good meeting after dark, a secret meeting. Kind of think of all those old black and white noir movies, those detective movies, kind of those old-timey movies, right? The same idea, kind of misty or foggy or spooky, meeting down there in secret, kind of back in one of these alleys, one of these canals after dark. I don't know, maybe an agent from an opposing faction, anything, whatever you want to do here. Great location for a spooky meeting. These are the dry docks over here. Here we have the market ward right here. And number 18 right here is the Red Bazaar. So this is where they can find a lot of adventuring supplies. Local market for food, clothing, insect repellent, rain catchers, things they might need out in the jungle right here. This is 19, the fish market over here. This is 19. So these are two hills right here and right here. And 19 is called Yakowazi Hill, also the Coliseum. And this is where they have daily gladiator fights. They have animal fights, circuses, all kinds of entertainment right here. And then number 21 over here, this is called Mount Sabasa, or the Hall of Gold. It's also the Temple of Joaquin, the goddess of wealth and commerce right here. It's also the major bank for the city and a big city landmark. This is the highest point in the city. 22, public bathhouse over here. 23, this is the dye works over here. So really just a commerce district where you can get a lot of different shops. If they want to find a specialized shop, you're probably just going to put it over here somewhere. Maller's Throat over here. So there's the Temple of Tamora. So it's a fortified temple that doubles as a refuge during floods and undead attacks. And this is really just a crowded slum, a good place to go get your pockets picked, or maybe meet one of the guides in a back alley, something like that. But you get the idea. Really not a safe place. This is the slum. This is Takiri Anchorage over here. It's also a rough district. A lot of animal trainers, explorers, river folk, smugglers, kind of the criminal element over here. And over here, number 25, these are the dinosaur pens, where they keep kind of all the herds of dinosaurs that they use to carry goods all through the city streets. That's also going on, remember, at all times. They can always come across dinosaurs. Instead of having horses, they use dinosaurs. Also, the dinosaurs they raise are kept here. There are two official kind of inns and taverns, and they're basically right over here by this red bazaar. So there is Kaya's House of Repose. So this is a tavern and an inn. It's quieter, much nicer. It costs a little bit more to stay here. There is officially also the Thundering Lizard. So this is also kind of in the Red Bazaar, and it's a much more raucous clientele. So then I also do a few kind of homebrew ones or things I've seen elsewhere on the internet. I do Sabatine's Chance. This is a gambling house down here in Maller's Throat, kind of down there in the slums. Really kind of a dangerous place. Great place to find a guide or to find a contact or something like that. And then there is the Dragon Turtle. And this makes sense because there is a Dragon Turtle kind of out here beyond the port. So somewhere down in the harbor ward, I put another bar, I don't know, for all the sailors and that kind of a thing. The Dragon Turtle. No beds, just a bar. Then I also do the Raptor's Foot. So this is over here in Takiri Anchorage. Also, a lot of criminal element over here. So kind of a scary place. And this is a laborer's bar. So you can get kind of a meal, kind of a low-class place, a cheap bed, that kind of a dive. Also, a great place to meet a guide. So we're not going to do the guides in this one, but usually I have the guides meet them in these taverns and inns and bars, or they could do a secret meeting at night also if they kind of had a contact or a connection, and that's how the guide wanted to meet them. So here's some of the things they're going to want to do while they're touring around the city. Just some general things you can throw in there, but they may want to buy a dinosaur. So that's a pretty easy thing to do, and they can go down to the dinosaur pins. There will also be some stalls probably down there in Takiri Anchorage where they could buy a dinosaur if they want to use that to take some of their supplies out in the jungle. I mean, spoiler alert, they don't know it, but the dinosaur isn't going to make it very far. It's just going to be pretty hard with everything going on, and you'll find out, they'll find out, but they're welcome to hire one. And the other suggestion, and you can come over here to get kind of insect repellent and a rain catcher. They need a rain catcher really every day to get clean water. At least that's how the adventure sets it up. It rains several times a day, but all the water and all the swamps and everything out there in the jungle, not good to drink. It can really make them pretty sick, so they're going to want to have several rain catchers with them. A pretty easy thing to do, but just an excuse to go out and go shopping to prepare for the adventure. Have them buy some of their other adventure supplies when they're out there doing that too. They're going to want some insect repellent. Also talks about that in the adventure. Otherwise, they're just going to get eaten up by all the mosquitoes and stuff like that that are in the jungle. And there's some rules for all those things. We're not going to get into those. Those are part of kind of the next part, exploring in the jungle, but that's where you buy it. And so also, if I could put any number of shops over here, a low-level magic shop, because they're going to have a little bit of money. I'm not going to let them buy very much. Me, as a DM, I'm not going to let them come in here at a low level and get really powerful, but maybe there's a good herbal shop where they can buy some healing potions, maybe a couple of really low-level magic items, some more things that are, I guess, more for flavor or more for fun, really than for power at this level, but some other shops to buy basic adventuring supplies. Put as many or as few as you like. I might do one herbal shop if it were me, and maybe one general adventuring supplies shop, kind of a general store, and then make it an easy thing for them to go over there to the Red Bazaar, buy the insect repellent, a rain catcher, stuff like that. And I guess a word to the wise, since you have this all kind of contained right in here, I would do the shopping expedition just one time. Have them go and do all of it, have them go to a few locations, have there be a shopping day. Me, as a DM, I do not want to role play a whole bunch of shopping stuff. Maybe your party does, maybe your players do, maybe you really love that. If so, knock your stuff out, but otherwise, I'm going to have them go to a couple shops, get everything they need, and just make it easy for them. Here is the fun stuff. There is dinosaur racing. I absolutely suggest this. I'm going to go over the rules. It's not complicated. It's a lot of fun. You're just basically rolling dice and betting, and they're going to have a little bit of money. So the dinosaur races happen once a week, and I usually make it happen on the first or second day that they're there pretty early. Make sure they get a taste of the dinosaur races. It is so fun. Every time I've run this, the players just have a great time at the table. They might lose some money. They might win some money. That's not what's fun. It's just fun. Weekly races winds around the harbor and the city's 4 hills. Just kind of they open some of the gates and the dinosaurs run all around. It's right there in the streets. Typically 3 races on a day, one for 4-legged beasts, one for 2-legged beasts, and one's a no-hold-barred or unchained race. And here's how you do this. So they can bet any amount on any of these dinosaurs. It tells you about the odds. And here's the payout, and you can kind of do all of those calculations. So if you bet on Grung Stomper, a young Ankylosaurus, and it's an even bet. So if they bet 100 gold, if they win, they get 100 gold. Or right here, we're down to 1 to 7 odds. So if they bet 100 gold and they win, they would win 700 gold. Mountain Thunder, an aging Dimetrodon. And here it tells you all about the racers, their speed, kind of their skill check or DC. So the hit points, armor class, attack, etc. Those come up in the no-holds-barred races. But the other 2 races, not really necessary. So really, they don't know a whole bunch about when they're betting other than the name and the type of dinosaur and the odds. It says bets can go from 1 copper piece to 500 gold pieces, but I don't know. I let them bet however much they want. They're not going to have a ton of money. They're going to want to pay up or they're going to come break your legs. Races typically go for 300 feet, so it's abstract. I usually just keep track of it on a piece of paper, or I put the dinosaurs kind of on a map, or I have kind of these mats I can roll out, and I put this kind of some dinosaur figurines right there, and we just represent that in inches, or maybe 5 feet or 10 feet or something like that. An easy way to do it is 10 feet, and it's 30 squares, or 30 inches or something like that for a full race. And here's what you do. Each round, each rider makes a wisdom or animal handling check, and the DCs for the different types of dinosaurs are listed. And so with a successful animal handling check, the first number listed in the dinosaur's speed, it's added to its running tally. If it fails, the dinosaur's tally doesn't increase that turn. When a racer's tally equal or exceeds 300 feet, they cross the finish line. They can try to move at a higher speed by lashing the animal. In this case, the animal handling check is made with advantage, but the dinosaur must also make a DC 10 Constitution check at the end of the round or its speed is halved. So the way this works is you're whipping that dinosaur. You can basically whip it and wear it out and it slows down. But also, if you're whipping it, you make your animal handling check with advantage. So it's got a positive and a negative. You pick. Or I guess you could have the players pick. If they can maybe talk to the guy that's racing the dinosaur and see if they'll really kind of whip that dinosaur to get across the finish line or something like that. It's up to you how you want to do this. But it's a lot of fun, pretty simple. And in the Unchained event, dinosaurs can attack other dinosaurs if they are within 50 feet of each other. If they're doing a regular animal handling check, and they pass that, they're going to go this speed right here. If they're doing kind of this, I'm really going to whip the dinosaur to make it go faster, and they succeed, it goes on this one. But if they fail, then their speed is going to be halved. And I would make it so if they failed a second time on whipping the dinosaur, the speed is halved again. There's going to be a big penalty. At least that's how I would do it as a DM. And there are a lot more rules here on betting. If you want to use those, you could do all this stuff right here, win, play, show, etc., or the dinosaur does something specific. If your crew is really into gambling and you really understand kind of how to run all that, you can run that however you want as a DM. There's also some other rules up here that you can use for the betting if you would like to. But I just use the basic odds, and if they win the bet. That's it. I just make it pretty simple, and I do my 3 races. And how I do it is I have the players roll for the dinosaur that they bet on, or kind of if I have 4 or 5 players, I have each of them pick one of the 4 dinosaurs, or maybe I put 5 dinosaurs or something like that in the race. You don't have to put all the dinosaurs in all of the races. I usually kind of divide them up, and the players roll. It gets really exciting. They move physically up on the map, and whoever wins is who wins, and that's who pays out. And so here's a Grand Coliseum, and I think of this really kind of as like a Roman Coliseum. They can fight each other. The gladiators can fight each other. It's usually after sundown. Events can start in the afternoon with other types of entertainment. And one of the things I do is I have my city guide bring the players to the Coliseum to kind of do a bit of a lore drop so they can do some question and answer, kind of talk to the players, do some role play with the guide, have some fun with it, really play up this environment. They can bet if they want to. There's going to be a bill of the gladiators who are fighting. And when the gladiators come up, really play up the environment. The crowd's really into it. There's lots of cheering. But the guide, I usually have the guide playing it straight. Like the guide is trying to talk to them, give them information, really kind of ignoring all this chaos going around, but have it be kind of difficult or really entertaining because there's all this stuff. Maybe there's a fight that breaks out in the Coliseum right next to them over like who wins or who loses or basically, kind of who's cheering on the different gladiators, that type of a thing. I just try to make it fun, make it chaotic, and have an opportunity opportunity for the city guide to kind of give them some information, what he knows about what's going on, kind of run down some of the guides, his opinions on some of the guides, maybe his opinions on some of the guides that they've interviewed. Just throw it in where you feel appropriate. And then, of course, when one of the gladiators wins, there's going to be, I don't know, some kind of a dignitary, probably one of these merchant princes, and he's going to do the thumbs up or the thumbs down. Your choice. It could be fight to the death, and it absolutely could kill the one, thumbs down, that whole thing. But it could also be kind of a theatrical death. So a thumbs down, they kind of like act the death out, but it's really not a real death. But still, the crowd's going to cheer and go wild and that sort of thing. Maybe have fake blood or something like paper blood or something like that that sprays out like confetti blood or something like that. So very obviously it's fake. I don't know. Up to you. Do you want it to be really hyper-realistic, thumbs down, Roman gladiator style, they're stabbed down there, or do you want it to be more theatrical? Either one of those things can work. All those rules aren't right here in the rules. It's just something fun that I like to do and add in. I think a great thing that really kind of adds a lot to the city before your players go out. And one of the times when I ran this, two of my players, their background is they were kind of a tag team wrestling duo. That was their shtick. They didn't know there was a Coliseum with gladiator fights. Their eyes absolutely lit up. They were so excited when they found out that there were gladiator fights that happened here every evening. They signed up, they fought, the whole thumbs up, thumbs down thing. They chose to knock out their opponents versus kill them. They won. It was a fair and square fight. I had them actually fight it out on the Coliseum floor. They won. And of course, the other players in the party, they were cheering. It was fantastic. They just loved it. And it was a total surprise. But even if your players don't participate in that way, it's still a great fun event. And so here are some other things I would throw in as some kind of encounters. We'll call them random encounters, but they're not really random. Some things to bring the city to life. So I like having a kid, a pickpocket, come by and pick their pocket, and they're probably going to catch this kid, and maybe he takes something of value. Maybe it's not really something of value, but a great opportunity to have some role play to kind of, maybe they can question this kid or figure out where he came from, or maybe he has a connection to one of the guides, or he knows where one of the guides is, or several of the guides are, or maybe he has some information for them. Whatever you want to do as a DM, but a pickpocket kind of running and racing through the streets, probably let your players capture him, or at least see where this kid goes off to so they can go kind of track them down. Just a good kind of a little side quest that's usually quite fun. And then, of course, they're going to be in all these bars and taverns. So what better than a bar fight? They can get involved in the bar fight, or the bar fight can just kind of spill out in the street and they can kind of get knocked out in the street. Maybe that's a good way to meet one of the guides. Maybe one of the guides is in a fight and they come in, they recognize the guide, they've seen a picture of the guide, and they're going to help the guide out and kind of get on the good side of the guide or in the guide's favor. However you want to run this, but a good bar fight or even two is usually pretty fun. And so another thing you can do is have a rampaging dinosaur going through the streets. And the way I do it is, so there is a dinosaur handler that has an unruly dinosaur that's gotten out of control. And the players are there, they kind of help corral this dinosaur. And then usually the dinosaur handler wants to sell the dinosaur at a discount because it's unruly. And usually the players take the deal because they make it a really good deal, like way less than a full-priced dinosaur. And then, do with that what you will. What can possibly go wrong? Chaos ensues, right? Another thing I like to do is kind of have an undead incursion. You can do it in some of the areas outside the city walls. So you've got Mallar's Throat, Takiri Anchorage, or the Old City, and that makes sense. Or I like to have a section of the wall under construction and a whole bunch of zombies kind of make it through there at night or something like that. Some zombies, skeletons, that sort of thing, attacking some of the locals, and the players of the party can come in and be the big heroes and save them. And I think that's awesome. I've done that. I think it's a good time. Anyway, just a great little encounter to throw into your adventure. Another thing you can do is throw in some of these faction agents. They could be Red Wizards or Emerald Enclave, whatever you want, Lord's Alliance. So I throw in some agents. Usually the agents are kind of spies against each other and trying to pull the players into kind of this cloak and dagger thing that's going on, maybe trying to hire them, get them on their side, or maybe they're not really sure who they're dealing with. But I just have some fun with that. And you can use any of the random encounters you want. There's some at the back of the book, but these are the ones that make sense to me, just seem like fun, and throw them in when it seems like an appropriate moment. I'm going to tell you, the pickpocket, probably one of the great ones, first thing out of the gate. Right as they're getting off into the city, the pickpocket comes by, and they got to deal with that thing. And anyway, just make it fun, a little bit exciting. So it's not just all role play. It's not just trying to come up with all this stuff on the fly. You can prepare these beforehand and just have them ready for when it makes sense. plans. All right. I just say, whatever you do, as long as you're having fun, your players are having fun, that's all that matters. All right, so you've done all this. How do you put it all together? I'm going to keep it really simple. There are really only two main things that the party needs to do. They need to hire a guide. We're going to talk about that in the next episode. And they need to do some shopping and gear up for the adventure. Everything else is just flavor and fun. So that should take some of the pressure off. I've given you some concrete, easy ideas for some random encounters. Use those to your advantage. And here's how I would do this. So limit it to about 2 days and have Wakanga, Lady Silverhand, the guide, have some urgency. We want you to get going. You should get going in about 2 days, right? And have other adventuring parties heading out into the jungle. That should add extra pressure also. But have them on one day do the gladiator fights and interview some guides. Have them on the other day do the dinosaur races and interview some guides. And on one of those days, have them do some shopping. That should about wrap it up. Maybe they want to go to a temple. Maybe they want to go to another market. Maybe they want to look for some healing potions. Make that really easy for them to do and keep the role play pretty light. You don't have to go into a whole lot of detail. Remember, the guide's going to always be urging them to come over here, the focus police, right, to keep them focused on the task at hand to get ready for this adventure. And you can probably do all of this, kind of all of the city stuff, in about 2 to 3 sessions max. That's how I like to limit it anyway. Good luck. So hopefully this gives you some good ideas on how to make the port easier to run and prepare. There's a lot going on in this city, but you don't need all of it. Pick some locations your players will enjoy. Have a few NPCs ready. Run the dinosaur races. Go watch the gladiator fights. Let them explore a market. Get into a bar fight, chase down a pickpocket, or have a dinosaur come crashing down on top of them. A zombie incursion. Any of it. All of it. The port should feel big and colorful and a little chaotic. You can give your players that experience without preparing every nook and cranny on the map, and use the city guide. Let them suggest a few things a party might want to do. Your players choose ultimately, but this helps you limit your prep just a little bit. Eventually, they're going to want to head out into the jungles and go after the rest of the adventure, find the soulmonger, the source of the death curse, etc. And they're more than likely going to want to hire a guide. Highly suggested. So, in the next video, we're going to meet the guides, and I'm going to give you some ideas on how to run them, some ways to kind of prepare to do that. And until then, may all of your dreams of crashing through the jungle in search of crazy treasure, just like Indiana Jones, may they all come true. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of The Art of Character. If you've made it this far, consider liking, commenting, or subscribing, or click below and join our Patreon or our Discord. You can also click below and get something from our merch store. Until next time.